It's sometimes said that buildings tell a story, that architecture is a testament, a record of things that men believe in. The first function of architecture is shelter. Shelter for all the needs of daily life. In providing shelter, buildings reveal something of the spirit of their time. What about our buildings? All these familiar places. What do they say about the times we live in? About the things we value? There's a mystery here. Many of these shapes and forms, arches and pillars, have come to us from times not our own. Towers and columns from the distant past reflect the struggles and the dreams of other men. The story of these buildings begins not with us, but many thousands of years ago. Very early in our Western history, a certain view of life and death was shaped in stone. The king in Egypt was supreme ruler, counseled by the gods, worshipped as a god himself. The palace life was rich and graceful, and yet another world was never far away. Much of life on earth was taken up with ritual preparation for the life to come. The king's journey through the temple symbolized every man's journey to the world beyond our own. In the inmost hall, the king's own image stood. A darkened shrine where man might speak with God. On sunlit seas, the Greeks explored new shores and built new cities. Believing beauty of the body and beauty of the spirit to be one, they sought a harmony of body, mind, and soul. The legends of the gods filled the Greek mind with a sense of fate and human destiny. Their rituals of worship grew into drama, enacted in the earliest theaters. The gods were close at hand, fully involved in human lives and destinies. They themselves were much like men on earth, but idealized and perfected. Temples built in their honor should then embody perfect harmony and balance. At the center, the god of love, or war, or wisdom. In the Greek city-states, buildings reflected a harmony of civic life, a sense of beauty, a balance underlying man's relationship with the world he lives in. Rome, the conqueror. Greater by far than any city-state, Rome and her empire grew in power. In her buildings, scale and splendor, to suit an age when man himself is glorified. Symbol of Rome's conquests was the triumphal arch. And in the arch, the Roman engineers found many uses. From intersecting arches grew the dome, a lofty covering for great assembly halls and monuments. After Rome fell, the empire's capital removed to a new Rome, Byzantium. Hagia Sophia, the Church of Divine Wisdom, built for a Christian emperor. Above it rose a dome pierced by 40 windows, described as a great lantern hung from heaven. The Byzantine tradition spread in Christian Europe and in Muslim Asia, and long outlived Byzantium herself. North of the Mediterranean, peace was slow in coming after Rome's fall and the dark age of barbarian wars. Fortress and castle rose on many a hilltop, guarding the lands nearby. As generations passed, the medieval towns of Europe grew around their castles. Like city-states of Greece long before, each was a separate island to itself. Here, craftsmen and merchants might work in peace. In Gothic churches, mind and eye follow tall verticals upward to pointed arches, to lofty, vaulted space. No heavy walls to hold the weight of the roof. Now, slender buttresses of stone carry it outward and down to the ground. Every line leads upward, and walls with lifted load are pierced to let the light flood in. No more the castle, but the cathedral, the cross, at the heart of the town. past reappeared. The ruins of the ancient world came again to light in the 14th century. In Italy, artists and scholars rediscovered the forgotten glories of Greece and Rome. The stately Roman arch became the keystone in a new mode of building. The painter took delight in his new grasp of perspective. His imagined view of an ideal town square often inspired the building of the square itself. In Italy and France, the squares provided new prospects of ordered, spacious city life. Symbol of this rebirth in art and building was the Royal Palace, a stately setting for pageants and ceremonies of the court. The Sun King of France, a brilliant autocrat crowning the most glittering court in Europe. Absolute ruler, patron of art and science. A new Apollo, echoing the splendors of Greece and Rome. Versailles, an entire court and government, set amidst open space and formal beauty. Here, the dream of an age was realized, in a scale and breadth of plan, foreshadowing the needs and methods of our own times. Now came an age of iron and coal and steam. It began in Britain, its landmark, the Great Exhibition of 1851. Working models and engines, marvels of invention and power were on show. The shape of things to come. And over all, even the tall trees of Hyde Park, rose the greatest wonder, a crystal palace of iron and glass. This was a new kind of structure, built with surprising speed from prefabricated sections. A triumph of engineers rather than architects. The secret was cast iron, which industry could now produce in quantity. Within 40 years, in Paris, a structure even more remarkable astonished the world. Steel, and the knowledge won from building bridges. Industry could now convert iron into steel. A structural engineer could raise a tower 1,000 feet. It proved that buildings in an age of steel could grow in a new dimension. It fired the dreams and plans of those who looked ahead. Because of its great height, the skyscraper is built on simple principles. An open cage of steel or reinforced concrete. The outside walls are screens, no longer basic elements of structure. Light and strong, the steel skeleton suggests new shapes and new solutions. Concrete, first used in Roman times, can now be formed in free organic shapes. A covered stadium, an aircraft terminal, or any structure needing uninterrupted space. office building can be hung on a pole buried deep in strong foundations. The floors, like ribs, branching from a spinal column. The walls, little more than a curtain of glass. Materials and means for modern building. Their use has spread around the world. In every continent, they bring new opportunities. New shapes arise in ancient towns, in Rome and others older still, whose ruins remind us how long it is that men have lived in cities. Around us, our age is taking shape from day to day. Everything we build expresses in some way the things we value. What do we build? How will the story read when our time has passed?